Welcome back to our channel. We've been building an off-grid home on 160 acres, which historically is a quote-unquote homestead thanks to the Federal Homestead Act of 1862. This act guaranteed 160 acres to any U.S. citizen willing to settle on and farm the land for at least 5 years. Nowadays, a homestead is basically a family-owned land consisting of a house and land with crops or animals. Check, check, and check. In the last video, I finished the living room crown molding and faux beams that covered up some exposed ductwork. Now it's on to trimming out the fireplace chimney, which I would have liked to have finished the whole fireplace, but priorities keep changing and carpet is just around the corner. Okay, I got the call this morning that our living room carpet's going to be in on Thursday, which is in 2 days. So I've got to finish up the crown molding next to the fireplace. In order to do that, I've got to get the fireplace chimney section done. So I've been trying to figure out exactly how I'm going to do that and what we're going to, material we're going to use. I've had issues getting 4x8 sheets of even sanded down nice plywood or birch stained to where it looks good. And I actually ended up just buying a really cheap, it's not even underlayment, I think they call it utility board, but it's only really an 1/8 inch thick, if that. I mean, really thin stuff. But as you can see, it's stained pretty darn well. So I was actually pretty impressed with it. So what my plan is now is I went and looked at these 1x12s are for the stair treads, which I haven't got to yet. But each one of these boards is about $30 to $40. And as I'm getting to is I was actually cheaper to go this route, because what I did is I got some OSB, 7/16 OSB, and then I had them rip it down to the sizes that I need, and I'm going to actually use this as a veneer, rip it down, and then glue it to that OSB. Okay, I've got these sheets laminated on here now. Just put some liquid nail wood glue, press them down with the roller, and they're looking pretty good. I got 3 coats of poly on here. These only take 2. You can see they're still quite a bit shinier, so maybe go ahead and put a 4th on. They took the stain pretty well, which was remarkable because it's literally just like a 32nd, if that, maybe a 64th of an inch veneer. I was surprised it took it as well as it did. But yeah, you can see right there, that's where a chip came out, how thin that is. So it's a little concerning as far as wear and tear down the road, but the poly makes a pretty hard shell on it too, so hopefully that'll help. These are not in areas where they're going to get a whole lot of traffic. They're on the side of the fireplace, so unless someone's climbing the fireplace, which is very possible, these really shouldn't get much abuse. And then I went ahead and these are the beadboard we're going to put on the face of the fireplace chimney. I just got these stained and cut, so I gotta go through and put poly on them and everything. Right now there's too wet to do that. So my goal is that tomorrow I can go ahead and get that last piece of crown molding up, but that's why I gotta get the side piece of the chimney up so I can put that up first, then get the last piece of crown molding up, and then that should be ready for carpet, I hope. We gotta get everything pulled out of there too. But I'm always surprised how well this went. I bought much more expensive pieces of wood and I couldn't get them stained very well, as you can see. So this piece below, you know, is one that we had tried to stain and did different sections and tried to figure everything out. And although some spots look good, for the most part, it's not very good at all. We did the same thing with this one. That was plywood. This was birch. I was able to get the birch to look fairly good, but still, you can see the difference in color. This is the darkness we were going for. If I try to get the birch much darker, it just went black almost. So you can see the difference in color there. So if this works, we're actually thinking of doing the whole stairwell in this, maybe use something a little thicker though, but putting drywall up and then gluing this to the drywall. Okay, it's the next day, and hopefully all these will be good to go now. I'll go and take my weights off and it should be dry, and then we'll start getting these panels up. Well, kind of running behind. I guess not running behind. It just takes longer to do things than you think. So I got all my planks done to go up the chimney here, and I ended up having to put 5 coats of poly on them and then sand it down. Also got the flooring done here. There was some debate going back and forth whether to use the wood look or the tile travertine look, tile 1. So I got that all laid and tacked down. Because it shifts and moves, I only tacked down one side. It's such a small piece. As you walk across, I didn't want it moving. So just the step side here, it's glued along there. And I got a nail in that corner and a nail in this corner. So it can still flex and move, you know, if it needs to during the winter, during temperature changes and things. So I'm gonna hop back on this, knock this out real quick, get the trim in. I get that last piece of trim up at the very top done, and then we need to start getting this room cleared out for carpet tomorrow. getting work on the base trim, which I hate, by the way. So on our 1x6s, I've got a wall piece where I'm trying to find a stud where I can make the two mend together. So what I've done is basically I've dug through my piles of scraps to find the piece that I need. You can see I've already got my line there because I've lined it up to the point where if you look down from the top, these get about there is my mark. So when you're looking at it, once it's cut and installed, that's about what you're going to see. So the main vein at least lines up, and all these little striations off to either side are not perfect, but it's much better than having a cut that's like that, or even from a light to a dark piece, you know, something like that that's super noticeable. So I'm trying to hide my seam the best that I can, and I line it up in the center of a stud so I can get 4 or 5 nails on each side to really hold that together. And then of course I'll go through and stain my edges all the way around, so if it ever does bow or bump out a little bit, you're not going to see it because the dark will help to blend it a little bit. And then another thing I do, if you can tell, that's cut a little bit at an angle, and the reason why I do that is that it's easier to get this razor edge here lined up against another razor edge than 2 blunt ends coming together, because you get 2 blunt ends and you typically see it. You know, it's hard to get that seam to go away, but you cut 2 at a little bit of an angle and it makes it get a nice tighter seam in there. So I'll go cut this one, and then this one's so big, this one's almost 16 foot I'm putting in, so I'm gonna have to actually take this one through the window. I'm doing the office area right now, so I'll take the screen out and then pull it up that way. You can see here, this is my little piece. We got a stud right here. The reason why I use something this small is because this is way down the corner. I know there's going to be a piece of furniture here, so it's going to kind of be covered up anyways. But that lines up really nicely. From a distance, the main vein you're going to see is this one. The color's a little backwards, kind of yin and yang right there, but overall looks pretty good. It's going to be pretty hard to tell. And of course this piece all the way down is one full length. And I've got a seam right there that didn't line up too well, but we're going to have desks along this whole side, so I wasn't too awfully worried about it. So just got to tack this in place and then put the top trim piece on. It'll be good to go. The reason why I do a top piece, for a couple reasons. I like to go through and I'll mark my holes with a stud finder, and then I'll drill out each way, and as long as I hit stud on either side, I know I'm centered. So when I put my nails in, I know I'm hitting good stud and I'm not off to the side or missing it. So that trim piece also is going to cover up all those little nail holes. And then if I need to, when I nail the trim piece in, I can look and see where these holes are at, and I know exactly where the stud is, so I'm not having to drill any new holes. Another reason why I do a top piece is because sometimes your walls wiggle back and forth like this, especially, of course I fixed it over on this side because it was so bad. So this one actually put 2 screws through to pull it up against the wall, but it was out about a ½ inch because the drywallers built out this side and then they built out this side, which left a nice kind of bow here in the center. Plus I think the board was warped a little bit. But let's say this was still out, you know, 1/4 inch or so. When I put that top piece along, it will bend really easily with the top piece or with the wall, whereas it's hard to get this 1x6 to bend with the wall. You have to use screws like I did here, and I always do that is because it's such an extreme bend. But it'll cover that up as well, make your tops look really nice. So actually right here, so you can see right there that gap. When I put the top piece on, you're not going to notice it. It's going to be completely gone. And the only part you're going to notice if you're looking really hard is down here. This edge will get a little bit bigger and then come back in. But that's a lot harder to notice than this hole right there. Another quick tip when you're cutting trim is that when you have 45s like this and you're trying to measure off an inside angle, let's say, so I need to cut this at 15 1/8. What I can do here is I can take my tape measure and hook it inside right there. And I know I've got to add about a 1/16 of an inch to that to get to where the center of the blade is when it comes down. And then I can slide this over to my 15 1/8 like so, and then I'm just going to take a 1/16 off of that because I want to slide it back this way, a 1/16 to make up for that difference. And I can cut. I'm just a hair over now, which is always good. I like to cut that a little long so now I can shave it back a little bit. Okay, so that trim piece, the bottom one where it stuck out from the wall, and this is the little top cove that I'm putting on there. And what this will do is, you can see when it's up against the wall, how it's got that gap there. And it's really hard to push that 1x6 up against it, but with the cove, it actually slips in there really easily. Get you tight up against the wall. And then the only thing that changes is this gap, or this distance right here from the outside of your trim to the cove. And that's really hard to see on trim. So you just push it up in there, tack it into place, and then I know where my studs are. So I can get one in the wall there, and I can get one down into the wood itself, and that'll hold it right where it needs to be. Okay, so today I'm hoping to get the trim down in this room, living room, so we can get it set up. My goal is to get basically from this corner all the way down, hopefully even all over that corner would be great.